श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजाता सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेव श्रीराधा कृष्णपादा सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता श्रीराधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा। Thank you all for joining for our Saturday Bhagavad Gita discussion. Let's start with our famous question. Do we remember anything that we discussed last time? Anybody on the Zoom also, please feel free to unmute yourself and share. If you're, yes, Prabhu.
One should have faith, determination, and patience, and continuing to mind. So that
With that?
it need to be connected to law.
Yes, very good. Very nicely. Thank you very much. That gives me a lot of encouragement that at least somebody is retaining the knowledge, right? So it's not that you are all not listening. Listening is one thing, but after that, retaining knowledge is also very important, right? अगर हमको ठंडा पानी चाहिए तो मटके में पानी रहना चाहिए ना। मटके में होल रहेगा, पानी निकल गया तो फायदा क्या है? हाँ? पानी भरा मटके में पर रहा ही नहीं मटके में तो फायदा क्या है? हाँ? So it is very, very important that we do the mananam of what we have discussed. You can discuss with others also. That is very important. घर पे जाके बात कीजिए कि ऐसा मैं सुन के आया या सुन के आई. What do you have to say about this? They may completely like demotivate you also. No, क्या भगवान, कुछ भगवान होता नहीं है, ये सब तू बेकार का टाइम वेस्ट कर रहा है. That's fine, doesn't matter. But at least try to tell somebody about what you have learned. That is the best way to retain the knowledge. The best way to learn is to teach. If you don't teach, you don't learn on it. That is what I'm doing here. I'm learning by trying to teach all of you. It's not that I know everything. I'm just trying to learn through this process of teaching. It is very, very important that we discuss, we do the mananam of this, and that is the best way to retain the knowledge. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for all of us. Yeah. What else we have discussed?
We discussed is that between the rich and the poor. Why the rich are more depressed compared to the poor. So we discussed that it keeps the hope for the poor that keeps them out of that zone of depression. So hope is very important. Also we discussed on the examples of rich and better. We discussed Gita of the time.
Yes.
Uh, it took around 18, 20 years for it to
22 years.
basically reach that mountain out. But we basically had the motivation that it to perceive that help the society. So cutting the distance of 2 hours to 2 minutes will be useful. So going forward, not everyone will use this bike because of that incident which happened.
34 kilometer was shortened to 1 kilometer because of the cutting the mountain. So we discuss, Prabhupada quotes the words of Nectar of Instruction, the third verse, Utsaha Nishchaya Dhairyat. These are the three most important ingredient for advancing in bhakti. Right? Utsaha means what? Enthusiasm. Nishchaya means what? Determination. Dhairyat means patience. Right? That's why, if you see, that's what we are going to discuss in today's Yaksha Prashna, that some of this knowledge was inherent. Some of you may be Gujaratis, some of you may be Hindi or other language. And I have seen practically most of the proverbs or the कहावत, whatever आपने जो सुना है, वो हर एक लैंग्वेज में अलग अलग प्रकार से होता है. It may not be exactly the same, but trying to tell the same essence, not the same thing. In Gujarati, they call it utavade ambana pake. Right? If you try to get the mango to be ripen fast, it's not going to happen. It will going to take its own course of time. So all these things is a wisdom that is being there with coming from the parampara. But because of this, the inflation and the not inflation, but the infection of this information overloading has completely destroyed this essence of the valuable information that was available to us is being lost in midst of a lot of other information. And because of the nuclear families, the joint families, you will get to learn all these wonderful things from our elderly relatives and others, right? So it is very, very important that is missing. And in Kali Yuga, we see that the memory is very, very dull, very, very dull. Even I confess, I myself was wondering, what did I discuss last time? What did I say last time? And it was difficult for me to recollect. So I was just wondering how difficult it must be for all of you. I to prepared the class and I gave the class. After that also, it became very difficult for me to recollect that what did I speak last time? Why is it so? Why do you think that such phenomena are happening? And we forget. Yes, Prabhu.
It is because of advent of social media and smartphones. Attention span has reduced. So we have reached to video production for content also earlier let's say like one had remembered phone numbers of
Yeah.
because there was no smartphone to record that or keep track of. Now we need to remember everything. So that whole practice of remembering is gone now. Even now, exams in most of the international schools are open book exams. You can use iPad. So the whole process they are taking slightly towards this. You should maybe not try to memorize it. That is led to a bit of reduction in
So how do you remember and how do you memorize? Let's say he said like, his parents were able to remember the phones. How they were able to remember or memorize? They had a divine Shakti that they looked at the number and it registered. Attention, efforts, one more thing. Repetition. That is the most important thing. Because you dial that number again and again, you by heart that number. It is not because they saw the number and they by hearted. Right? It is all about repetition. Right? Now, I spoke the verse. Did I go back and read again for myself? I did not. So how do I expect it to retain it further? It is just because of like, I put my like, brain to the text, seeing that like, what was it? And then, oh yeah, that. I prepared using this Utsaha Nishad there, and then there was a story of a sparrow, and then there was a like, the mountain man, and then the wind man, and the forest man, and these are the three things that even the material world, if somebody wants to achieve a great success and things like that. But amazing thing will happen when you study. So when I did this and when I was preparing the next verse, since this Yaksha Prashna we are going to see today, Yudhishthir Maharaj was asked that what attracts help? अगर किसी को help चाहिए तो कैसे attract कर सकता है? So Yudhishthir Maharaj answers amazing. Any thoughts from you all? Surrender by asking for help, okay? Huh? You said amazing thing. See, help in the sense, I'll elaborate because it was quite subjective and quite generic term that I use. Now, let's say you want to open a company and you need help. I'm not talking about like, you are brutally injured by the accident and then you need help. That's a separate thing. I'm not talking about that kind of a help. I'm talking about the help that you need to grow in your life, basically. Right? For that kind of help, how can you attract such help? I'm talking about that. So sorry, I didn't clarify it in the beginning. So other things as yeah, you show helpless, like will attract the help, but that is not the original context of the help. The context of the help is if one wants to grow in life, right? Then that person needs help, right? So how that person attracts the help? You by helping someone, okay? Karma theory, right? You help someone, somebody will help you. That's a good point. Any other thoughts? Okay. 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 Can I give you a hint? It was something discussed in the last class. Uh, how the help came? Okay. So I'll narrate the story for some of you who are not present here. Okay. The story was that the sparrow laid the eggs on the shore of the ocean, and the ocean took away the eggs by having whatever the heavy tide or whatever it is. Ocean took away the eggs of the sparrow, and sparrow said, like, what will be my life without my children? So sparrow gave a dhamki, right, threat to the ocean, saying that you give back my eggs, otherwise I will dry you out. Now, can you imagine, like, somebody is going to the, like, a, like, 3-year-old boy, like, going to the gunda of the, or the mafia king of the, like, Mumbai and saying that, मेरे पापा को छोड़ दो नहीं तो मैं तुमको उड़ा दूंगा. Just a 2-year-old child. बोलेगा घर पे जाके चड्डी पहन क्या पहले जा. Right? So like that sparrow, that is even more audacious, right? That sparrow is telling ocean that I will dry you up, and she actually start doing it. She was picking up the water in her beak, whatever she could gather, and start दूसरी जगह पे जाके रख के आती थी वो, right? While she was doing this, nothing was happening, but somehow or other the news reaches to Garuda, and Garuda comes to help Sparrow. Now, what is that one ingredient that attracted the help of Garuda? And when Garuda came and said, Garuda told Ocean, better you give back the eggs of my sister, otherwise I'll dry you up. And then Ocean has to take it seriously because Garuda is the carrier of Vishnuji, so Garuda can do anything. So, be in this story, what is that one ingredient? Sincerity, emotional connection, perseverance. Started doing, okay. Huh? Utsaha Nisha, that's a perfect example of this. Okay. All these three required for help: effort, determination, compassion. All of you are right. Nobody is wrong. But what Yudhishthir Maharaj said, Yudhishthir Maharaj, when it was asked by Yaksha, Yudhishthir Maharaj said courage. That was the biggest ingredient. He had a courage to do that, and that attracted the help. And that is why you see a lot of venture capitalists, VC and all these things. What do they look for? कि इसमें what is his risk taking ability? इसमें courage कितना है ये बंदे में? Then I will go and help. So देखो कि wisdom is timeless. It is not bound. अभी वो 5,000 साल पहले पूछा गया था. अभी भी it is still relevant. It will be relevant after 50,000 years as well, because it applies to the human beings. Okay, so we'll start with the verse number 25, and then we'll get into the Yaksha Prashna. So you can repeat after me. शने शने उपरमेद उपरमेद बुद्धया धृति गृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किंचित अपि चिन्तयेत्. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else.
By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activity. This is called Satyahar. The mind, being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from the senses, should be situated in trance or samadhi. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material perception of life. In other words, although one is involved with this matter, as long as the material body exists, one should not think about such gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness.
Okay, thank you. So here we see Srila Prabhupada is very beautifully. First of all, Krishna is saying very important words that are being used here. There are two things: gradually and step by step. So Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. It is not an overnight process. Okay. It's not like a download the Grow app and your portfolio is increased to multifold. It's a very gradual and a step by step process. Okay. And by this process, one will become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction. That is the most important word here, full conviction. That's what also we will discuss last time also. What follows is precursor by faith. अगर conviction नहीं है आपको तो आप कुछ भी नहीं कर पाओगे. You will not have a determination, you will not have an enthusiasm, you will not have even patience, because आपको conviction ही नहीं है. अगर किसी को conviction है, right, तो क्या होता है? Again, going back to the same example, शेयर मार्केट में पूरा ब्लड बात हो गया, बोलते हैं ये हो गया, but the person who has a conviction के बॉस ये मैंने जिसमें इन्वेस्ट किया है वो इवेंचुअली इट इज गोइंग टू आएगा, वो इट्स अ लंबी रेस का घोड़ा, आई हैव अ फुल कन्विक्शन, then that those people will stay invested. But the people do not have conviction, what will happen? They will exit. बोलते हैं और ज्यादा लॉस जाएगा, उससे अच्छा अभी मैं निकल जाता हूँ, right? Because that person does not have the conviction. Similarly, in Krishna consciousness also, whatever the activities you do, whatever your sadhana you do, right? If you do not get the desired result, like what you are not getting in the stock market, then what is the normal tendency is exit. तो ये कुछ काम नहीं कर रहे, चलो छोड़ो यार, हाँ, इससे अच्छा और कुछ करते हैं, इसको बहुत ट्राई कर लिया, अभी थोड़ा आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग ट्राई करते हैं, अभी थोड़ा सत्य साई बाबा ट्राई करते हैं, थोड़ा इनर इंजीनियरिंग ट्राई करते हैं, राइट? Anything you go on trying, whatever process you take, you have to have these three things: utsaha, nishchay, dhairya, with conviction. That's the most important word. अगर आपको conviction नहीं है तो all of these things are not going to happen only. वो आएगा ही नहीं आपको. So that's why it is very, very important word. And thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. And then Srila Prabhupada writes a very beautiful line in the purport. The mind being controlled by conviction, again, see, the mind being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from senses should be situated in trance or samadhi. And then further Srila Prabhupada writes, one should not think about sense gratification. So if you see time and again, right, is sense gratification, I was just wondering कि यार इतना क्या पीछे पड़ गया सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन के, यार इतना तो क्या प्रॉब्लम है सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन? तो इसका मतलब है कि कुछ ना कुछ तो रहेगा ना, हाँ? अभी आप किधर भी जाओगे, लाइक लेट्स से इफ यू गो टू द मिडल ईस्ट, तो कोई बोलेगा भाई एक काम करना, तो सेल्फ ड्राइविंग कार वगैरह लेना ही मत, उधर यू हायर अ कार, आपको बार बार बता क्यों, वहां पे बहुत सारे स्ट्रिक्ट रूल्स है, एक भी रूल तूने ब्रेक किया तो सीधा इतना फाइन लग जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा. सो देर इज अ डेंजर ऑफ डूइंग समथिंग, राइट? देन पीपल विल रिमाइंड यू अगेन एंड अगेन, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So similarly, Shastras, seeing the pitfalls of sense gratification, they remind you again and again and again. Because they know that if you go on doing this, it is like putting a water in the fire which you are trying to ignite with your great endeavors. इतना मेहनत करके आप एक अग्नि को प्रज्वलित कर रहे हो, अगर वो अग्नि को मेंटेन करना है तो उसमें ज्यादा अपने को घी डालना पड़ेगा, उसकी बजाय अगर हम लोग पानी डालेंगे तो क्या होगा, वो अग्नि शमन हो जाएगा उसका. तो इसके लिए बताया गया कि आप ग्रेजुअली प्रोग्रेस तो कर रहे हो, पर अगर आप ग्रेजुअली उसके साथ साथ सेल्फ ग्रेटिफिकेशन करते करते उसको ये भी करोगे तो इट विल बी अ प्रॉब्लम. दैट इज व्हाई श्रीला प्रभुपाद come up with the four regulative principles. Prabhupada is not saying that completely stop kar do. We have the senses, so we have to engage while we are in the body, right? So that has to happen, but it has to be in a regulated way. It cannot be unrestricted. Okay. So we will see that somebody who has that conviction and who has with the conviction, they have sharpened their intelligence, how that person reacts or responds to the situation in a most provoking situation, right? Because it has been talked about the intelligence. So how one has sharpened that intelligence by gradual process of bhakti yoga, what will be their state of mind? So today we will take the example of Yudhishthir Maharaj and Yaksha, right? So now, before we get to this Q&A of Yudhishthir Maharaj and Yaksha, let's understand how this situation happened. So we all know that Pandavas were in the Vanvas for how many years? 20 years? 14 years? 15 years? रामायण और महाभारत को मिक्स मत करो. रामायण, राम जी गए थे वनवास कितने साल? 14 साल, 14 ईयर्स. पांडव कितने साल गए थे? 13 साल. ठीक है. और What was the biggest difference between the राम का वनवास और पांडव के वनवास में? हाँ, 1 साल अज्ञातवास था. That was amazing condition was put. Right? राम को ऐसा कंडीशन नहीं था. राम को बोला था 14 साल के बाद वापस आ जाना. आपको पता है 14 साल क्यों बोला गया था? That is also quite interesting. It is said that if somebody is out of your mind for 14 years, then that person is as good as dead. तो ऐसा नहीं बोला कि राम भगवान आप मर जाओ, ऐसा नहीं बोला कहीं कहीं ने. क्या बोला? वनवास में चले जाओ, दैट इज एज गुड एज डेड फॉर एवरीवन एल्स. सो नाउ पांडवास के लिए ऐसा था कि 13वें साल में अगर वो पकड़े गए तो वापस से 13 साल का वनवास. एंड अगेन उसमें वापस से 13 year इज इट्स लाइक ए इनफाइनाइट लूप. go in the वनवास only, right? So that was the situation they were in. Now this wasn't the 13th year, right? Now it was one of the year that was going on. And see, that is the nature of a person. Many times people say ना कि भाई तुम्हारा nature क्या है? Are you a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra? And India has been blamed left, right and center. कि इंडिया में सबसे ज्यादा जातिवाद है, कास्ट सिस्टम है, बहुत बेकार है. इंडिया जितना लिबरल और कोई कंट्री नहीं है. Just because of the few corrupt people, we feel that a whole entire system is corrupt. That is problematic. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Guna Karma Vibhagasya. All this Varnashram system has been designed based on the Guna and Karma, not by your birth. प्रभुपाद अच्छे से बताते हैं, डॉक्टर का बेटा डॉक्टर नहीं होता बाय डिफॉल्ट, उसको अर्न करना पड़ता है वो डिग्री. सिमिलरली ब्राह्मण के बेटे को ब्राह्मणत्व अर्न करना पड़ता है, क्षत्रिय के बेटे को क्षत्रियत्व अर्न करना पड़ता है. एंड एवरीवन हैज अ प्लेस. अमेरिका में जाओ, राइट, तो वहां पे शूद्र नहीं है क्या? शूद्र का मतलब ये नहीं है. शूद्र का मतलब क्या है मालूम है? एग्जैक्टली. सीईओ इज अ शूद्र. चीफ एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर is a Shudra because he's working for somebody. Now, Shudra is not a derogatory term because people have, that is what is the lack of knowledge is a problem. Brahmana doesn't mean somebody high. Brahmana means somebody has that knowledge who can guide, so you have to take the guidance from it. It's as simple as that. Kshatriya is somebody who has the natural tendency to protect. That is Kshatriya. Vaishya is somebody who has a natural tendency to earn money and grow business. That is Vaishya. Not everybody can become Vaishya. Not everybody can become Shudra. सब लोग शूद्र रहेंगे तो धंधा कौन करेगा? Who will be the owner of the company? Somebody has to own the company. Somebody has to run the business, right? Somebody has to be administrative, right? ये जो administrative अपन, हमको ऐसा लगता है कि पानी अपने आप आ रहा है, बिजली अपने आप आ रहा है, right? There is whole departments are happening. Of course, some departments are not working. That's a separate discussion. But still, there is a system in place, right? So administrative class is required. That is Kshatriya. Brahmanas are the one who actually design the strategy and everything else. They are required for the entire things to happen. That's why you see in the kingdom there is always a Raj Purohit, right? The one who is actually coming and doing all the things for the king. And there is actually the some of the ministers are actually Brahmanas because they can guide the king how to go about it. So again, the what I was trying to say is Pandavas, when they were in Vanvas, what is their inherent nature? Kshatriya. So Kshatriya means to give protection and provide help to others. So one Brahmana comes to the Pandavas and saying कि मेरा जो यज्ञ करने का अरणी वुड है, अरणी का लकड़ा है, वो गुम हो गया है एंड उसकी वजह से मैं यज्ञ नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ. पांडवा said I will find it for you. तो दे फिगर आउट कि एक डियर जो है वो उनका लेके चला गया, वो अर्नी वुड पकड़ के कैसे. तो दे ट्राई टू चेज द डियर. और चेस करते करते डियर भी इतना स्मार्ट था, किधर किधर अंदर जंगल में लेके गया सबको, पर दे वर नॉट एबल टू फाइंड द डियर. एंड इन दैट प्रोसेस वो लोग इतने थक गए कि अभी बोले अभी कुछ नहीं कर सकते हम लोग, हमको विश्राम करना पड़ेगा। तो दे ऑल सेट डाउन अंडर द ट्री, बोलते थोड़ा रुक जाते हैं, उसके बाद वापस से डियर को ढूंढने का चालू करेंगे। दे वर सो टायर्ड एंड दे वर सो थर्स्टी. So at that time, Yudhishthir Maharaj tells Nakul that get up on the tree and see is there any water reservoir nearby. कुछ पानी का तालाब वगैरह दिख रहा है क्या आपको? So अब देखो, these are all kingly sons, right? These are all prince. This is also another very important thing. But they knew how to climb the tree. हाँ, ऐसा नहीं कि प्रिंस है तो मतलब ऐसे ही अच्छे अच्छे कपड़े पहन के घूमना है और हीरोगिरी करना है. No, they knew everything. So Nakul immediately climbed the tree and saw that nearby there was a nice pond. So Nakula said, okay, I'll go and get the water for everybody. Right? That is also another important thing. Right? We should have that seva bhav. अरे चलो सब लोग, मैं थोड़ी लेकर आऊँ सबके लिए पानी, चलो. Nakula naturally said, I'll go and get water for everybody. So Nakula goes, और सब लोग thirsty थे, कितना टाइम हो गया आया नहीं. As soon as Nakula reaches to the pond, he's about to drink the water for himself first, and then he wanted to carry, right? So he's about to drink the water. There is a voice came from the sky. Before you drink the water, you need to answer my question. And this Nakul was so thirsty. Who the hell are you? Like, क्या है भाई, इधर मेरे को इतना प्यास लगा है. And रहेगा मैं पानी पी लेता हूँ, उसके बाद अपन बात करते हैं. Because they were so thirsty, they were almost about to die. That इतना हालत था उनका. Nakula drinks the water, he dies. Then Sahadev goes. Because Nakul did not come in time, so Yudhishthir, Sahadev, आप जाके देखो. Sahadev जाते हैं, about to drink the water, same thing. He also dies. Because they have no patience. They said, कुछ इतना प्यास लगा था ना, तो क्या किधर से आवाज आ रहा है, मेरे को पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है. Like, they said, I want to drink water, बाद में बात करते हैं. And he gives a warning, if you drink, you will die. क्या? He dies. Arjun goes, he dies. Bhima goes, he also dies. Now Yudhishthir Maharaj goes. Now Yudhishthir Maharaj was about to drink the water because he was also so thirsty. He said, किधर गए भाई, मैं देखता हूँ बाद में, पहले मुझे बहुत प्यास लगा है. वो बोलते हैं ना कि before you put a mask on your, like, fellow passenger or children, just put it on yourself, right? Something like that. पहले मैं जिंदा रहूंगा तो बाकी को मैं देखता हूँ ना क्या कर सकता हूँ. So he was about to drink the water and the voice came. Says, before you drink the water, I own this water. So you have to answer my question. Says, of course, I will not drink the water without your permission because you are the owner of this lake. So without your permission, I will not drink. But please let me know who are you. This person says, I am Yaksha. It says, I want you to answer my questions before you drink the water. Now, can you imagine the situation? आप लोग थोड़ा imagine करो. He sees all his four brothers practically dead, right? He himself is so thirsty that he cannot wait for a moment. And in this desperate situation, somebody is saying, boss, you have to answer my questions. And ऐसा नहीं कि one question. He asked 33 questions, which has multiple questions in it. So it is practically more than 100 questions. Now see the beauty of Yudhishthir Maharaj. Everyone feel, but Yudhishthir Maharaj said, okay, go ahead and ask your questions. So this is a wonderful book, Yaksha Prashna, that was written by Govinda Prabhu. So we'll go through this, some of these questions. We'll not be able to do all the questions, but we'll see if in the multiple sessions also, if we try to cover, we'll try to cover. So now here, Yaksha asked the first question. Okay. Yaksha said, who makes the sun to rise? Some of these questions you will find very stupid also, or very, like, silly also. And some of the questions are very, very difficult also. That, like, ऐसा कैसे answer कर सकते हैं एक question को? So we'll see. So Yaksha asked, who makes the sun to rise? Who are the associates of the sun? who makes the sun to set? How does the sun stabilize himself in space? Now, can you imagine? And this is not a question which is like a happening and this Maharaj thing is like a rapid fire questions. It is like he's asking questions and here immediately the answers are coming because Yudhishthir Maharaj's intelligence is so sharp. And why is so sharp? Because he has followed Krishna consciousness so thoroughly. Okay. He answers. Yudhishthir says, Brahma makes the sun to rise. The Devatas are the associates of the sun. Dharma makes sun to set. And Satya makes him stable. Right? So in this, a very interesting commentary is also given by. So we'll read not all the commentaries, but some of this, which is very interesting, right? So Brahma or the Vedas are the causes of the sun to rise. What sun symbolizes? Does anybody know? Of course, I'm sure Vedmurti Prabhu will definitely know. He's an astrologer, so he knows all the grahas and everything. But what sun represents? Anyone else? Light, right? What light represents? Huh? Knowledge, right? So sun represents knowledge. So that is why it says Brahma or the Veda, the causes the sun to rise, symbolizes the awakening of the knowledge. So that is why you see in our system, our Bharatiya Pratha mein kya hai? The most important samskara which has been forgotten and which has been misunderstood and which has been, even if it is done, was not done in a proper spirit. What is that samskara? Does anybody know? With this Brahma, with the Gyan, it is related to the Gyan. One samskara is done in the life of everyone. And the biggest misconception is also there. Okay, I'll give you the hint that this samskara to be done only for the Brahmanas. Upanayan samskara. जो जनोई देते हैं ना, जनोई जिसको बोलते हैं हम लोग, right? The biggest misconception is that it is given only in the Brahmana families. No, it is given to the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. All four of them gets the Upanayan sanskar. But because of this corruption of this whole caste system and everything, it was done very organizedly by the Britishers and others. That is why we are in this situation. Now, what is the purpose of this Upanayam Sanskar? Whoever even Brahmanas does, specifically in the Gujarati families, they spend as much as how they spend for the marriage. I think nowadays some wise people are also coming. There is, I forgot her name. There is one celebrity who has written an article, 3 things for a woman to consider for marriage. Right? One is definitely don't get married without setting up your career, right? Because nowadays what kind of incidents are happening, right? Another thing is being called out is this particular aspect of one is don't give up your means first you settle in your career so that you are self-sufficient, right? And the second thing I forgot. What is it? Okay, anyways, whenever I remember, I'll come back to that. So coming to the this expenses. He says for the marriage expenses, yeah, you should not, exactly. You should not spend more than your 3 month salary. I really like that advice. People just make a big pomp and within 2 years they get divorced anyways. Why you have to make such a big pomp for that? Right? So that is what the unfortunate situation today, right? So I really like very practical advice she gave, right? That rather than spending all your savings and getting a big pomp around this marriage and things like that is wrong. So I see even in Upanayam Samskar, right? People want to spend a lot of money and show off and all this. I don't know what you get other than just satisfying your own ego. Somebody said very nice thing, I think your friend only, Prashna from Parayan, was telling me that people have a 1,500 square feet home, 5,000 square feet home, how much actually you need, right? The human being requires out of this 1500, they require hardly 3, 400 or 500 square feet space for them to live. And rest of that is 1000 or 2000 square feet, their ego lives. For them to live is only 500 square feet, whereas the rest of the place, their ego lives, right? And I know Rishabh Bro was like, enlightening me in this, like, that is the biggest show off that they have, right? Otherwise, car could be so much, how much you can do it, right? But they like, your house cost you, and I was surprised. In Mumbai, there are houses that can cost you 100 crores, 100 crores. So I'm like, no. So that is the only way because they have a lot of money, right? अभी कार खरीदेगा कितने का आएगा 3 करोड़ का आएगा 5 करोड़ का आएगा देन हाउ मच दे कैन शो ऑफ बट घर से यू कैन शो ऑफ ना कि भाई आई हैव 100 crore home. So this egoistic thing has no boundaries.
Buy and not tell anyone for 2 years. That is for yourself.
Sorry?
The best thing if you buy something and not tell anyone for 2 years, that is for yourself. For others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is the thing, right? And the purpose of Upanayan Samskar is actually for the Gyan. And in that ceremony, except Gyan, everything else happens. Seriously, the Pandit ji who is coming, who is supposed to give a Gyan to those boys, right? He is coming with the tamaku in his mouth or like something else and all kinds of things. And the host Yajman is also worried कि भाई what will be there for the food. They're worried about where is the photographer. The photographer बेचारे को वो is like what photograph? And to my surprise, it actually I did it for my own sons also, and I'm surprised like how could I do it? But like it just to please everybody you have to do it sometimes. It's ridiculous. After this dhoti and all this, there is no even kurta also, right? They just have a upavasa, just case on the shoulder, right? After that ceremony is over, immediately they have a suit boot and like they have a whole like practically Bharat type thing happening and everybody is dancing and like photographer is having their photos and all these things. I said like this is ridiculous. The whole purpose of this is so divine, right? And there are three purpose to be achieved because when and actually the Upanayan has to happen when they're 5 years old. I was surprised that some places Upanayan happens because it is a ritual. If it is not done, then your marriage cannot be done. So at the time of marriage, एक ही खर्चे में दो एक दिन से दो रिश्ता why spend extra for the Upanayan separately, right? So they do it on the day of marriage itself. It's that's why people's faith is gone. People feel कि यार क्या मतलब है फिर marriage also is being done just to enjoy. Then they feel कि भाई क्या मतलब है. Then they get in the living relationships and everything because we have forgotten the values of our samskaras. That is the biggest problem. And if we do it, and believe me, even today there are families who are genuinely following this and they see the results for themselves. They are so grounded, they are so well cultured families. It's really amazing. So the purpose of the Upanayan is to get out of Kamachar, Kama Bhog, and Kama Vad. So what is Kamachar? Is the reckless behavior. So the child has a reckless behavior. What the child does, right? It is said like मम्मी ने अच्छा सा खीर बनाया था मस्ती करते करते चाइल्ड ने जाके उसमें हींग डाल दिया या तो मैंगो आधा खा के बेड पे ही छोड़ दिया right now all these things are happening until the 5 years that is okay but after 5 years the child needs to be disciplined and that is why that child needs to go to the place of the guru. Mother cannot discipline. It's a guru who is going to discipline. And then there is a kama achar. Sorry, kama achar is already we talked about. Kama bhog. That is thoughtless and yeah, thoughtless and indulgence. That means there is no coherence between what he or she speaks and what or he or she does, right? There's completely mismatch. कुछ भी बोलते हैं वो लोग, right? And on a lighter side, once somebody was asked that in our village there is no bijli, so that person says, घर घर में बिजली आएगा. Then another person says, हमारे गांव में स्मशान नहीं है. क्या बोला? घर घर में स्मशान बना देंगे. So there is no connection, there is no coherence. What you speak and what you are actually seeing, right? So that is what is required. And then last is kamavar. That means you do not have that understanding of how do I progress in my life in terms of gaining the knowledge. Yeah. So that is very important. Now there is another interesting line. I want you to think about this. Okay, because as we're talking about this sense gratification thing, right? Now the line given here is the Chanakya says, all of you have seen the Chanakya serial, right? Chanakya observes that education and sense gratification do not go hand in hand. What did Chanakya say? Education and sense gratification cannot go hand in hand. And इसके बाद जो उन्होंने बोला है, that is really amazing. Emphasizing that true learning should be inherently fulfilling. This is like, golden words. I'll repeat this. Emphasizing that true learning should be inherently fulfilling. What does that mean? True learning inherently fulfilling. Anyone, even on the Zoom, if anybody has any suggestions or any thoughts, please do share. We are saying that inherent learning, sorry, the true learning has an inherent fulfillment. Learn, become humble, okay? Okay. Okay, let me repeat that entire statement again. So the statement says, Chanakya observes that education and sense gratification, hear this carefully, okay? Chanakya observes that education and sense gratification do not go hand in hand, emphasizing that true learning should be inherently fulfilling. Because many times what happens now, we read through it, but we do not digest what it's trying to say. That's why many people say, I can help you read 10 books in 10 months. Tricks. Arey Baba, even if you read one paragraph of the book, that is also fine. If you have understood, that is a success. It's not just about reading so many books. So what this one statement means? Chanakya says that education and sense gratification cannot go hand in hand, emphasizing that true learning gives you inherent fulfillment.
Now, true learning will make you so much fulfilled that you won't need to gratify.
Exactly. That is what it means. लर्निंग ही इतना एक्साइटिंग है कि आपको धुरंधर देखने को जाना नहीं पड़ेगा. लर्निंग ही इतना एक्साइटिंग है कि आपको आईपीएल देखने नहीं जाना पड़ेगा. You find learning so exciting that you feel wow. हम लोग ने क्या कर दिया? लर्निंग साइड में है और हमारा सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन होना चाहिए, तो मतलब नहीं. What is the biggest thing today's young generation tell us? क्या कहते हैं आजकल के यंग जनरेशन हमको? What is their biggest problem? Tell me, what is their biggest problem? No, that is not their problem. It is we think that's a problem for them. They are not saying they are not seeing as a problem. उनके लिए तो बहुत अच्छा है यंग लड़कों लड़की के लिए तो. ये सोशल मीडिया नहीं होता तो बोलते थे हमारा जिंदगी कैसे चलता था. दैट इज अ लाइफ लाइन फॉर देम. वो प्रॉब्लम हम परसीव करते हैं, उनके लिए सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम क्या है? वो बराबर है. उनके लिए प्रॉब्लम क्या है वो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ. किसी ने आपको बताया? हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू हैव टीनेज बॉयज और गर्ल्स एंड व्हाट डू दे शेयर विद यू द प्रॉब्लम? व्हाट इज द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम दे शेयर विद यू? दे डोंट शेयर एनी प्रॉब्लम्स. एनीबॉडी ऑन द जूम? हाँ. नो नो, आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि व्हाट हम लोग क्या देख रहे हैं उनमें प्रॉब्लम, वो नहीं बोल रहा हूं मैं. वो उनको क्या प्रॉब्लम लग रहा है. सी दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ अवर जनरेशन. हम लोग उनको समझते ही नहीं है. हम लोग देखते कि तेरा प्रॉब्लम क्या, तेरा ये प्रॉब्लम है, तेरा प्रॉब्लम. बोलते भाई मेरा प्रॉब्लम क्या है वो तो समझो भाई. दे डोंट वांट टू बी गाइडेड. दैट इज देयर प्रॉब्लम. ओके. कंपटीशन. ओके. पढ़ाई करने का फ्रीडम. लैक ऑफ फ्रीडम. डेफिनेटली. all of us had a, like when we were teenage, right? We also wanted freedom. कभी घर से भाग लो यार, बहुत हो गया यार. कच कच, right? But even with that freedom also there is one problem they will continue to have. Let's say आपने आज घर पे जाके बोल दो आज हम आपको मुक्त करते हैं. जैसे 1947 में इंडिया को इंडिपेंडेंस मिला था, हम आज आपको इंडिपेंडेंस देते हैं, आपको जो करना करो, घर में आपको कुछ रोक टोक नहीं किया जाएगा. फिर भी दे विल हैव वन प्रॉब्लम. यू नो व्हाट इज दैट प्रॉब्लम? बोर हो रहा है मेरे को. है कि नहीं? क्या करूं मैं, बोर हो रहा है. नाउ दीज आर ऑल स्टूडेंट्स. दे आर ऑन द पाथ ऑफ लर्निंग. सोचो, ये चाणक्य भी रोएगा बेचारा, बोलेगा कि क्या चल रहा है दुनिया में. सेल्फ ग्रेटिफिकेशन इज एब्सोल्युटली रिक्वायर्ड. क्या करते हैं बच्चे एग्जाम खत्म होने के बाद? द डे द एग्जाम गेट्स ओवर, वी ऑल नो व्हाट वी ऑल हैव डन आल्सो, राइट? Immediately either they go to the restaurants or they go to the movie, right? ज्यादा ओवरडोज हो गया पढ़ाई का भाई, अभी आई नीड माई टाइम, राइट? तो कहां से होंगे बच्चे जो हम चाहते हैं और जो राष्ट्र चाहता है, कहां से होगा? लर्निंग ही एक्साइटिंग नहीं है, और वो सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन करेगा तो लर्निंग कहां से आएगा? सो देखो ये शास्त्र कितना पावरफुल है. सो दैट्स व्हाई इट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. व्हेन दिस गुरुकुल में वो एजुकेशन इतना एक्साइटिंग बनाया जाता था कि दे वर नॉट आस्किंग कि भाई मेरे को सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन चाहिए. जैसे वृषंग प्रभु ने अच्छे से बताया कि भाई लर्निंग इटसेल्फ इज सो एक्साइटिंग, सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन याद ही नहीं आ रहा है, राइट? इट्स अदर वे राउंड अपना, राइट? हमको सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन इतना है कि हमको एजुकेशन याद ही नहीं आता है. Then further it says Satya is essential for real knowledge. Without it, people are easily swayed away by falsehoods. सत्य कितना इंपॉर्टेंट है. अभी आप देखो द वे दिस साइंटिफिक सोसाइटी एंड एवरीथिंग, ट्रूथ कितना सिस्टमेटिकली छुपाया जाता है, विच इज रिडिकुलस, इज एब्सोल्युटली रिडिकुलस. So that's why Satya is the one which sustains the sun. It's a beautiful answer by Yudhishthir Maharaj. We'll take maybe 3 questions and then we'll stop. We will have the Chora. Maybe we'll just do one more question because we have to do the Chorastakam as well. And I would like to read the translation also of the Chorastakam, which is really, really wonderful. So the second question was asked by Yaksha. What we'll do in now next few sessions, we'll just do this Q&A, and it will be very important for all of us to learn the wisdom of from Yudhishthir Maharaj. So Yaksha asked, how does one become a Shotriya or the scholar? How does one attain greatness? How does one seek help? That we already discussed, right? How does one seek help from others? How does one become बुद्धिमान? Now, सोचो कितने इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चंस हैं, राइट? ये एक क्वेश्चन में उन्होंने कितने और क्वेश्चन पूछ लिए? 3 से 4 क्वेश्चन पूछ लिए उन्होंने, राइट? व्हाट इज आस्किंग? हाउ डज वन बिकम स्कॉलर? How can one attain greatness? How can one seek help? And how can one become buddhiman? Now, hear the answer from Yudhishthir Maharaj. Veda Adhyan. By studying the Vedas, one become scholars. Now, interesting. What makes one great? Tapasya. Tapasya makes one great. Why do you think tapasya makes one great? हम तो किसी को देखते नहीं है तपस्या करते हुए, फिर भी कई लोग ग्रेट हैं. तो तपस्या करने से कैसे ग्रेट हो गया कोई? आजकल के जितने भी ग्रेट लोग हैं, हम लोग ने देखा नहीं उनको तपस्या करते हुए. कोई किया है तपस्या? हाँ, हाँ, हाँ. सफरिंग करते हुए तपस्या हो गया. हाँ,
करने का कंसिस्टेंसी.
हाँ, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. एक और, व्हाट इज तपस्या? Tapasya is to do the same thing again and again and again. That is tapasya. Tapasya is not just going to the forest and sitting in samadhi. That is not just tapasya. That is also one type of tapasya. But what is the other tapasya? That is where you see all these great people. हमको माइंड में लगता है मैं भी विराट कोहली बन सकता हूँ, पर विराट कोहली को जाके पूछो उसने कितने पापड़ बेले हैं. Every day you just like same ball. I still remember when I was in college, I saw one person. हम लोग ग्राउंड में ऐसे ही मस्ती करने जाते थे. But there was one person used to come, used to put one stump. एक वन स्टंप लगाता था उधर और वो आके बॉलिंग करता था. दूसरा एक उसका दोस्त था उधर पीछे, वो बॉल पकड़ता था, उसको बॉल देता था. वो कम से कम वो 10 ओवर तक डालता था. कम से कम 50 से 60 बॉल वो डालता था. और हम लोग सोचते क्या कर रहा है ये. वो चाहिए तभी जाके यू कैन अचीव समथिंग. विदाउट तपस्या यू कैन नॉट बिकम ग्रेट. एंड दैट इज व्हाट द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम आज का क्या है. कुछ मत करो, सीधा हो जाओ. क्या बोलते हैं ना, आज ही पेट डालो, आज ही आम खाओ, आज ही गुटली डालो, आज ही आम पाओ. Doesn't happen. You have to have a lot of tapasya. See, this was in our culture. This was shared by Shamlal Prabhu, one of our devotee, who is a very wonderful doctor. He was in his village and he saw one old man. Okay, he was trying to put some, like the seeds of the mango and other fruits, and doing that, and watering every day, and worked hard really to cultivate that land and everything else. So he asked that, वैसे भी you are already in your 70s. ज्यादा से ज्यादा आप कितना 10 साल जियोगे, 20 साल, तब तक ये एक खड़ा भी नहीं होगा पेड़ जो आपने डाला है अभी. वो पेड़ के फॉर्म में भी नहीं आएगा, तो आम तो खाने का कोई क्वेश्चन ही नहीं है आपको. तो आप क्यों इतना मेहनत कर रहे हो? बोलते बेटा मैं मेरे लिए नहीं कर रहा हूँ ये. आई एम नॉट डूइंग इट फॉर माई सेल्फ. आई एम डूइंग इट फॉर माई नेक्स्ट जनरेशन. So they will enjoy it. How do you think that this particular, he showed to the another tree? How do you think this tree came about? Because my ancestor did the same thing. That's why I was able to enjoy this. अभी honestly बताओ, आज ये mentality है क्या किसी में? Anybody is going to do with this? बोले मेरे को नहीं मिलने वाला, मैं क्यों करूं? How do you see the society is going to function? एक छोटा सा तपस्या भी करने के लिए रेडी नहीं है हम लोग. क्यों? क्योंकि मुझे नहीं मिलेगा तो मैं क्यों करूं? That is why you see the day will come where the human society is going to suffer, and that is what is given in Shastras also. Suffer like anything. And then further it is said, like, we talked about makes one Mahatma. After that, courage attracts help. And we already discussed that. And the last one, the most important thing, how you become buddhiman. Any guesses? What Yudhishthir Maharaj would have said? अगर आपको बुद्धिमान बनना है, wise बनना है, anybody on the Zoom, please feel free to unmute and speak as well. अगर आपको बुद्धिमान बनना है, तो क्या करना चाहिए? युधिष्ठिर महाराज ने क्या आंसर दिया रहेगा? सोचो. हाँ? Serve the बुद्धिमान. Good. Very close. Huh? Serve or hear. Okay. Anyone else?
Get the knowledge from your gurus. Get the knowledge from your gurus.
Get the knowledge from your gurus. Okay. That is also pretty close. Anyone else would like to share?
Lot of reading.
Huh?
Lot of reading.
Do lot of reading. I was thinking some of you on the sitting on the chair would be able to answer that. Others experience, okay.
Good observer.
Good observer.
इस बात व्यक्ति को है फिर पानी देता है तब देना अवपक होते हैं
नहीं, हम ये नहीं बोल रहे हैं कि बुद्धिमान कौन है, हम बोल रहे हैं बुद्धिमान कैसे बना जाता है, वो प्रश्न है. नहीं, क्वेश्चन इज कि अगर किसी को बुद्धिमान बनना है तो बुद्धिमान कैसे बन सकते हैं. युधिष्ठिर महाराज बहुत अच्छे से बताते हैं, वृद्ध की सेवा करनी चाहिए, वृद्ध का सेवा करना चाहिए. एल्डरली, सर्व एल्डरली पीपल. व्हेन यू सर्व एल्डरली पीपल यू विल बिकम बुद्धिमान. अगर आप सोचो एक कितना डीप पॉइंट है, और इसी फैब्रिक को हमने निकाल के फेंक दिया है. अभी इन्होंने बताया बुद्धिमान की सेवा करनी चाहिए, राइट? तो बुद्धिमान को ढूंढने कहां जाओगे? और बुद्धिमान को ढूंढ भी लिया, वो आपकी सेवा एक्सेप्ट करना चाहिए, राइट? नॉट पॉसिबल. गुरु को सर्व करने वाले कितने सारे लोग रहेंगे, लाइन लगा रहेगा, अरे मेरे को भी सर्व करना है शुरू गुरु को. सो सी हाउ प्रैक्टिकल युधिष्ठिर महाराज वाज. What both of you said is correct, but the most practical aspect given by is Yudhishthir Maharaj, क्योंकि वृद्ध आपके घर में ही होंगे. It's a win-win situation. Because वृद्ध की सेवा करके ही इंटेलिजेंस होता है. And that is why you see the people who have, it's an unfortunate thing, and of course we can't go back. There is no point. I don't like to talk about the problems. I'd like to talk about the solution. But unfortunately, in this case, we don't have a solution. But whoever can have an opportunity, and nowadays also the again the vruddha means not just the in the age as well, that is definitely there, elderly is being mentioned, but the important aspect is why it is called vruddha. Actually vruddha ka meaning hai na old nahi hai. Vruddha ka meaning hai one who is wise and experienced. So automatically जब वो experience और wise person की सेवा करते हो ना, तो that things same thing comes in you. Right? So that is what is being this Maharaj has shared. So those are the wonderful points. We'll continue next time for the rest of the questions, and we'll learn a lot from this Maharaj. Thank you all very much. If you have any questions or comments, we'll take that, and we will do the now Choras to come, and we'll read the translation first of the Choras to come. So can you put that? Okay, let me just. I think I did put it on the group, but I'll put it again because it's a very interesting uh, translation as well of this wonderful I'll put the link, okay? So you can just get that. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. आपने डाल दिया? Okay. So everyone got it? So I'll directly read the translation. So while Govind Prem Prabhu lead us in the melodious, wonderful listening, many times what happens with the Sanskrit and other language, unfortunately, we do not know Sanskrit so well. So the meaning we will not be able to understand, and we just like it's a nice melody. But when you understand the translation of that, you will sing, understand. Wow, this is really amazing. So the first verse says, I offer pranam to that foremost of thieves. Now here, can you imagine the title itself is called Chora Astakam. You know, किसी चोर के ऊपर किसी ने 8 पद लिखे हैं और वो कोई ऑर्डिनरी चोर नहीं है, वो बहुत ही जबरदस्त चोर है, right? I offer pranam to that foremost of thieves who is famous in Vraja as the butter thief, and he who steals the gopis' clothes, and who, for those who take shelter of him, steals the sins which have accrued over many lifetimes. So can you imagine if you worship Lord Krishna, all your sins Krishna steals away, which have been accumulated for many, many lifetimes. I offer pranam to the foremost of thieves who steals Srimati Radhika's heart, who steals the dark luster of a fresh rain cloud, and who steals all the sins and sufferings of those who take shelter of his feet. He turns his surrendered devotees. ये बहुत डेंजरस लाइन है, जब आप रिपीट करोगे तो थोड़ा ध्यान से रिपीट करना. He turns his surrendered devotees into paupers and wandering homeless beggars. Oh, such a fearsome thief has never been seen or heard of in all the three worlds. किसी दिन इस पे चर्चा करेंगे, टाइप मिलेगा तो ये वर्स के ऊपर. इट्स अ वेरी अमेजिंग वर्स. Mere utterance of his name purges one of a mountain of sins. Such an astonishing, wonderful thief I have never seen or heard anywhere. सिर्फ नाम लेने से, वो व्यक्ति का नाम लेने से आपके कितने भी सिंस रहने दो, हिमालय के जितने बड़े बड़े सिंस रहने दो, सारे नष्ट हो जाएंगे. O thief, having stolen my wealth, my honor, my senses, my life, and my everything, where can you run to? अभी अभी उनका भाव प्रकट हो रहा है. The person who has written this, Bilwa Mangal Thakur has written this, right? Oh having, sorry, oh thief, having stolen my wealth, my honor, my senses, my life, and my everything, where can you run to? I have caught you with the rope of my devotion. You cut the terrible noose of Yamaraj. You sever the dreadful noose of material existence. And you slash everyone's material bondage. But you are unable to cut the knot fastened by your own loving devotees. Right? आप यम का पाश भी तोड़ सकते हो या काट सकते हो, मटेरियल बंधन का भी आप बंधन तोड़ सकते हो, पर जो डिवोटी ने प्यार से आपको बांधा है बंधन, वो आप नहीं तोड़ सकते, आप चाहे कितने भी ग्रेट हो. O stealer of my everything, O thief, today I have imprisoned you in my miserable prison house of my heart, which is very fearful due to the terrible darkness of my ignorance. and there for a very long time you will remain, receiving appropriate punishment for your crimes of thievery. What a कितना रस है ना this व्यक्ति में, just really amazing. And the last stanza he says, "O Krishna, thief of my everything, the news of my devotion remaining forever tight. You will continue to reside in the prison house of my heart because I will not release you for millions of aeons." This Astaka is recited in the poetic meter of Upajati. So now we will have wonderful recitation of this verse, and after that we will have a arrangement to offer a diya for everybody, because in this Purushottam month, hearing this particular Chora Astakam and offering diya has a great benefit in your life. Please do it with a lot of love and devotion, and you will achieve that amazing mercy of the Lord. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So I'll mute here and you can unmute that for the Zoom people also. So if anybody is there, they can hear as well.
व्रजे प्रसीदं नवनीतचोरम् गोपाङ्गनां च दुःखुलचोरम् अनेकजन्मार्जितचोरम् चौरागम्यं पुरुषम् श्रीराधिकायार्जनयस्य चोरम् नवमुदश्यामम् पारात्रिकानां च संप्रचोरम् चौरागपुरुषम् अकिञ्चनीकृत्य पादाम्या करितुं परिवेदनीयम् केनाप्यहो भीषणं चोरयित्रे यदि रामापि हरत्यशेषम् गिरिप्रसारानपि पापराशि रामापि हरत्यशेषम् गिरिप्रसारानपि आश्चर्यरूपो न चौरकेन्द्रे दृष्टश्रुतो प्राणं शरीत्वा सर्वं लायसे पुत्र त्वं भक्तिमानासि मायामि नैवात्मनो कृतं तु चोर आराधने कृष्ण Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, सब गाइड Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna one but important. नेक्स्ट वीक सैटरडे को यहाँ पे भगवत गीता डिस्कशन नहीं होगा। काफी लोग यहाँ पे वो जा रहे हैं। तो हम उसके अगले सैटरडे से कंटिन्यू